Just give me 1 second. We'll get everything set up. Ooh, let's see if this works. All right. The live streaming on Facebook's not working. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this working. Let's see, something's wrong. Yeah. I'm live. Okay. It's not working on Facebook, but it's on Zoom. Okay. We will get started. Hold on a second. So today is a very special day in the Vaishnava, or on the Vaishnava calendar. I'm live. And it is the glorious appearance day of Advaita Acarya. So instead of the Chaitanya Charitamrita reading, we're going to speak a little bit about Advaita Acarya today. Of course, this morning I also gave a class on Advaita Acarya, and we were in New Talavan, which is in Mississippi in the United States. So a lot of the things I'm going to say this evening are repetitive or repetitious based on what I said this morning about Advaita Acarya, and some of the things I will speak a little bit differently. But in any case, we're going to speak about Advaita Acarya, but before we speak about Advaita Acarya, we're going to chant, and I think we will chant Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Oya Koro. And we'll get the trusty guitar. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koromore Toma Binake Dayalo Jackie Samsare. Let me change. Hold on a second. Get my capo out. I'm going to transpose this so it's in a higher key, which is easier for me and easier for all of you to chant along. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koromure Tuma Bina Ke Ayalao Jakit Samsare Patita Pavana Ketu Tavahavatara Moshama Patita Bravo Napai Vekara Akha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Ripapalokan Akora Abhiparaduki Nayakuru Sitapati Advaita Goswami Tavakripapo Nipai Chaitanya Nityananda Ahasatana Tana Rupa Raguna Bhatta Jugat Shijiva Prabhulokvanda Daya Kuru Shiacharya Prabhu Srinivas Ramachandra Sangamage Naratamatakas Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koromure Tuma Bina Ke Ayalao Jakit Samsare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvati Acharya also tell us that Shrimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantagoti Navacharya Shila Haridas Thakuru Vijay Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Advaita Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagadath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarne. So, as I mentioned before, today is the Glories appearance day of Shri Advaita Acarya. And Advaita Acarya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're going to be speaking about him in today's class. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shigadave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, to start off today's talk or discussion about Advaita Acarya, I want to read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'm going to actually share the screen with all of you for a second and read some verses from the 6th chapter of the Adi Leela, of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then we'll go back to the normal view here, and then we will talk about Advaita Acarya's first ontological position, that who he is, and then also some interesting pastimes about Advaita Acarya. So here we're going to share the screen. So Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, as we normally do. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. So we're going to start with text 4 of the Adi Leela, chapter 6 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This chapter is entitled The Glories of Advaita Acarya. So let's go. Mahavishnur Jagat Karta Mayaya Yasrijat Yadaha Dashavatara Ivayam Advaita Acarya Ishvara. Lord Advaita Acarya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Advaitam Harinai Dvaitad Acharyam Bhakti Samsanat Bhaktavataram Isham Tam Advaita Acaryam Ashrahe. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita, and because he propagates the cult of devotion is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore I take shelter of him. Advaita Acarya Goshani Saksharishvara Yanhara Mahimana He Jivera Gochara. Shri Advaita Acarya is indeed directly the Supreme Personality of God in himself. His glory is beyond the conception of ordinary living beings. Mahavishnu Shrishti Karena Jagadadi Karya Tandravatara Sakshat Advaita Acarya. Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Shri Advaita Acarya is his direct incarnation. And that's all we're going to read today. And then I'll speak about Advaita Acarya. And it's very important to understand who Advaita Acarya is. I'm stopping the sharing. So, let us talk about Panchatawa first. Okay, that's a good idea. So Panchatawa, that means the 5 tattvas. And so, as we were describing in class this morning, tattva basically means that is, something that is. But something that is an eternal fact. In the Bhagavad Gita, we have the verse, Nasato vijite bhavo nabhavo vijite sataha ubayarapi drishtavantas tvaniwas tattvadarshavahi. That the word tattva is used there. So those who are tattvadarshis, who see the tattvas, this actually verse is quite important as far as dealing with tattvas. Those tattva seers, tattvadarshis, they understand those things are temporary, in one sense are unreal, and those things that are permanent are real. So what is temporary? This body is temporary, so it's not a tattva. It's part of the category that's a tattva, but the body's not a tattva. So the things that continue to exist for a long period of time are real in an ultimate sense. Like something that's temporary, it's real in a temporary sense, like a soap bubble, and the bubble bursts, and it doesn't exist anymore. But a tattva exists, always existed, always will exist. It's tattva. So there's jiva tattva, which means the individual souls like us, at least like me. You may be a different tattva, but I am jiva tattva. And there is a Vishnu tattva, and there's Shakti tattva. Vishnu tattva means the category of God. And then there's Shakti tattva. And Vishnu Shakti para prabda kshetrakya kitata para vidyakarma sanganya tutir Shakti ishate. So, anyway, so we are of the spiritual category tattva. So let's talk about the Panchatawa, right? Those are the 5 personalities who appeared. Of course, Lord Chaitanya, so you got 4 with Lord Chaitanya. But in the Panchatawa, it's not a 10, it's not a Dasapatra tattva. It's Panchatawa. You actually have 3 tattvas. How's that possible? We said Panchatawa, so how can you have 3 tattvas? Well, there's only 3 different tattvas in the Panchatawa. There's 5 personalities who are all tattvas, but there's 3 categories within those. What are the 3? There's the Vishnu tattva, which is Lord Chaitanya, Advaita Acarya, Lord Nityananda, and then you have Jiva tattva, which is Srivas Thakur, and Shakti tattva, which is Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, who is an incarnation of Radharani, and of course Srivas Thakur is an incarnation of Narada Muni. So, but we're not going to speak about them today. We're going to speak about Vishnu tattva category. So the Vishnu tattva category is not simply a category, they're all the same persons. That's interesting, isn't it? The Jiva tattva category, we're different persons. Like you're a Jiva soul, maybe. Most of you are watching, some of you may be Vishnu tattva. I don't know if Krishna is watching this Zoom conference or not. Of course he is, from my heart. So, but when you're talking about Vishnu tattva, it's not only a category like Jiva tattva, but every Vishnu tattva is the same person. Now that's interesting. Same person. But how can you say Lord Nrsimhadev? How can you say Advaita Acarya? How can you say Lord Vishnu? How can you say Krishna are all the same person? Well, that's described in the Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita is a very important book written or spoken by Lord Brahma. And the Brahma Samhita, you have the statement, which actually starts with Advaita Acharya's name. Advaita Achyuta Anadi Radanta Rupamadhyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atmabhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Brajame. Now, I'll translate that for you. Advaita. Let's go word by word on this one, okay? There's Advaita's name, but Advaita is the means not dual. Dvaita means dual, two. Advaita means not dual, or more, one. And so Advaita Acharya is non-different than Krishna, Nrsimha, Varaha, or any of the Vishnu Tattva expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're all the same. What we mean by non-different, they're all the same, but same person. We are not polytheists. We don't believe in many, many gods. There's one God. That's Krishna. And Krishna appears in many different ways according to his leelas. Krishna has many different appearances according to his desire and his leela. But he's the same transcendental body. Jopi son of Yatma Bhutanam Ishwaropisham Prakatim Shwamadistaya Sambhavami Maya. He comes in as himself. He's not different than his body. He's Advaita also. He's non-different from his body. So Advaita. So Advaita Acharya is Advaita. So the Lord is Advaita. He's one. But he appears in a variety of places simultaneously doing different things. Just like Krishna. Okay, let's take Krishna and Dwarka, where Krishna married 16,108 wives. Now that's nothing for Krishna. Krishna can have, he does have unlimited wives, or Lakshmi Sahasrasata Sambrahma Sevimanam. So Krishna has unlimited wives, really. So, but in Dwarka, a little over 5,000 years ago, Krishna had 16,108 wives, quite a bit. And so what Krishna did is he appeared in each and every palace with each and every wife. And when Narada Muni went around and visited the different palaces in Dwarka, he saw Krishna, and Krishna was doing different things in each and every palace. In one palace he was playing with his kids, in another palace he was talking politics with Uddhava. And so basically he's the same person doing different things in different circumstances. I mean, there's different categories of expansions. I'm not going to get into the technicalities right now, like Vaibhava, Prakash, or Vilas, etc., like that. It gets a little technical. But in any case, I mean, just to summarize everything, it's not a different Krishna was in everyone's heart, but Krishna was acting differently in each and every house, within each and every wife, with each and every wife, child, and paraphernalia in the house. So he's the same Krishna acting differently. And we were having this interesting discussion today. Like when Krishna appears as Lord Nrsimhadev, he doesn't have to, to make himself angry, he doesn't have to look like Lord Nrsimhadev. No, he's angry, and therefore he looks like Lord Nrsimhadev, because his body and self and mood and everything are Advaita, non-different. So, and we have great devotees like Jayadeva Goswami, who recognizes this. Oops. Somebody's message. It's the problem of leaving my phone. I get messages. Tomorrow's verse. I'm not even there. How am I going to... So, this is interesting. Someone's telling me to give a class, but I'm not even there. So, okay, getting to the point. So, Jayadeva Goswami, he says, Keshvadrita Narahari Rupa, Keshvadrita Shukara Rupa, Keshvadrita Rama Shurira, Keshvadrita Haladala Rupa. He sees that Krishna, you're doing all these things. So, a devotee of Krishna, he's not deviating from his devotion to Krishna when he glorifies Lord Nrsimhadev, because he's seen Krishna acting as Lord Nrsimhadev. And actually, Krishna's original aspect, his original manifestation, is Krishna in Brajendra Nandana, in Vrindavan. And then Krishna expands himself, but he's still the same person, just manifesting himself differently. Like Prabhupada gives the example of a man who goes to the office. He has a different manifestation. He's the same person. And when he comes home, it's a more complete understanding, more complete manifestation of himself. But he's the same person. But Krishna can do both simultaneously. He can be in the office and at home, and 1,000,001 offices, unlimited offices, limited homes simultaneously. And as I was describing this morning in class, Krishna can be in all these different universes, and is in all these different universes. Right now he's being born somewhere and mature in some universe. Right now he's lifting Govardhan Hill in another universe. Right now he's dancing with the gopis in another universe. Right now he's stealing the clothes of the gopis in another universe. So simultaneously he's the same person. What does that mean? We'll get to that in a second when we're actually going over this verse. So Advaita, he's one person, there's not many gods. Advaita Acharya is that same God. Achyuta, he's infallible. He never leaves his particular position, never comes under the sway of the material energy. We are, at least I am Chuta, fallible, fallen. So Advaita Achyuta, Anadir, he's without beginning. He's eternal. But here's another statement, Ananta Rupam, that he has many different forms. He's the same person. Advaita, here's again, Advaita, Achyuta, Nadir, Ananta Rupam. That means unlimited forms. The Prabhupada said that Krishna incarnates Vishnutattva in every species of life. And that's pretty amazing. And it's all simultaneous, It's just, Krishna's unbelievable. Advaita Achyuta, Anadir, Ananta Rupam. Ajam Purana. He's the oldest. Navayovanam cha, but he's youthful. And Advaita Acharya, was we mentioned this morning, is sometimes depicted with a beard, and sometimes not. There was a controversy when the deities in Sridhar Mayapur were being installed. Should Advaita Acharya have a beard? And Prabhupada said both things. He doesn't have a beard. He does have a beard. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said something. So the devotees gave him a beard because he's older externally, but he's always youthful. Navayovanam cha. And then Vedeshu Durlabam, Adurlabam Atma Bhaktu. So this cannot be understood. When I'm describing to you, it doesn't make sense materially how someone could be in unlimited places simultaneously. I mean, God is inconceivable. Advaita, Adurlabam Atma Bhakto, but if you are a devotee, or if you take shelter of a devotee, Adurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, that Govinda is the original Supreme Personality of God. And so all this is achintya. Achintya means you cannot conceive. It's achintya. You cannot conceive of this. Advaita. So what does that mean as far as Advaita Acharya is concerned? Okay. That Advaita Acharya is the same person as Lord Chaitanya, is the same person as Lord Nityananda, is the same person as Lord Nrsingadev. So why is it, here's the question for you, why is it that Advaita Acharya was thinking he wasn't capable of freeing everybody from Maya? Because this is one of the stories in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that you have Advaita Acharya appealing to the Lord by offering Ganges water, worshipping the Shalagram Shila. Please come, I'm not capable of saving all these people. And, people were really degraded then. There were a lot of sahajas in the name of Krishna consciousness. There was a lot of Mayavadis. There were people who are just plain intellectuals, just like the Digvijayis. The people went around arguing with each other. to try to get Jayapatras, certificates of victory. So Advaita Acharya said, these people are all nonsense. I mean, I don't have the power to save them. He's God. Let me pray for God to appear. So here's God. This is quite an interesting phenomenon. Here's God, Advaita Acharya, praying for God to appear. Now, what is happening there? That God is appearing or praying for God to come. This is called Leela, or pastimes, and also the Leela under the jurisdiction of Yoga Maya. Now, Yoga Maya is an internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and she does many things to assist the Lord in Vrindavan and other places. But one of the things she does is that Krishna uses her to forget that he's God in many circumstances so that he can enjoy Ras. Krishna is called Rasa Raj. That means the king of Ras, or someone who enjoys Ras. Ras means taste. We all like different tastes. Like you eat prasadam. I was watching the devotees eat the feast prasadam today. They were enjoying like anything. And they were saying, don't you want to enjoy too? And I said, no, I'm a sannyasi. I'm not supposed to enjoy. So anyway, we like to taste ras. And of course, if we taste spiritual ras, rasa varjam, rasa pisha, param drishta nivartate, then we won't be so interested in material ras anymore. This is renunciation. So Krishna is Rasa Raj. And so in order to taste ras, he has to forget, in many instances, that he's God. Like if he was thinking he's God, how is he going to dance with the gopis? If he's thinking he's God, how is he going to cry because Mother Yashoda is not paying him enough attention? If he's God, how is he going to get worried that when all the coward boys march into the mouth of the Aghasura demon? God just not going to get worried about stuff like if, of course I'm not God, but if I was God, I wouldn't worry about anything. I just let it happen. I'm Swarad, I'm up to Kama. That means I get whatever I want, I'm independent, I don't need anybody. I have so many Lakshmis. Of course, I don't have any Lakshmis. But anyway, if I was God. But God forgets so he can act as if he wasn't God, and then he can call God to appear. So it's so cool. Sorry for that word. It is so achincha, it is so inconceivable that Advaita Acharya is asking for himself to appear. And he's asking for Lord Chaitanya to appear. But he's forgetting that he's God too. And he's taking the position of servitor of God. So, this is a very interesting, very deep understanding of what's happening. Lord Nityananda, the same thing. He's taking that position. And of course, you see this with the Lord's pastimes, like when Lord Ram appeared and Nityananda appeared as Lakshman, and then there's Bharat Shatrughna, the Chaturvyuha, expansions of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajuna, Naniruddha. And so even Ram was forgetting that he was God. He was getting angry, or he was upset or anxiety because Sita Devi was kidnapped, and he was angry at Ravana. But he could have killed Ravana just by wanting Ravana to die. He wanted Ravana to come so he could taste ras and fight with him. Krishna likes these indirect rasas, like anger, chivalry, ghastliness. And so Krishna's just enjoying life. So Lord Chaitanya, esoterically, Lord Chaitanya's appearance with the members of the Panchatawa is just to enjoy ras. We could say externally, Lord Chaitanya appeared to teach the Sankirtan movement, which is very true. But internally, he came, Lord Chaitanya, right now, to understand Radharani's love for him. He to taste that love, to enjoy from her perspective, and to understand his own beauty from her perspective. So this is Krishna's own internal goings on. So we could say the Panchatawa appeared to break open the storehouse of love of God, which is true. But actually, they appeared to enjoy rasa and exchanges with each other. Okay, so that's Advaita Acharya's ontological position. Also, he's called Sadashiva, And so one may question, we brought this out today in class, why is he called Shiva? But Sadashiva is actually an expansion of Krishna in the spiritual world, who's Vishnu Tattva. The Shiva in this world is different from Sadashiva. Sadashiva is Vishnu Tattva. So he's expansion of Krishna. He is non-different, Advaita, but expansion at the same time. Anyway, there's so many examples used, like one candle lights many other candles in the Brahma Samhita. So in any case, he's an expansion. He's an expansion of Krishna, and he's called Sadashiva. The Shivas of this world are expansions of Sadashiva in the spiritual world, and he expands from the Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu is not different from Krishna, and Mahavishnu is not different than Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, all Krishna acting in different capacities, in different circumstances, according to his desires and enjoyment. So that's basically who Advaita Acharya is. So that's called ontological position or description of Tattva. So, anyway, also it's described in the Advaita Prakash that he is a coward boy in Krishna Lila. Now, I don't remember the name of the coward boy. And also he serves in the Braj pastimes of Krishna as being a Dikpal, like we see Lord Shiva, Kundeshwara Mahadev, Gopishwara Mahadev, like that. All these different aspects of Lord Shiva that guard the holy Dham. That's called the Dikpal. And you actually have to get permission from Lord Shiva to enter into the holy Dham. In fact, we were describing in class today how Lord Shiva makes sure that no males enter into the rasa dance, because you have to be female. So one time Narada Muni, he tried to go to the rasa dance and they wouldn't let him in. Lord Shiva wouldn't let him in, and he said, you have to be a lady. And so Narada Muni took a bath, Kushma Sarovar, and he became Naradi. And then Lord Krishna, instead of dancing with him, told him, you got to write the Narada Pancharatra and remain there. And there's a place in Braj, right near Govardhan, that's called Narada Kund, where Narada remained. And also, Narada took care of Kayadu, who was Hiranyakashipu's wife, and of course, it also means Prahlad Maharaj's mother. Okay, so let's get on to some of the stories. I actually want to mention one story before we begin the other stories about Advaita Acharya. That we mentioned Advaita Acharya is called Advaita, and the opposite of Advaita is Dvaita. So if you call someone Dvaita, that means they're two-faced. They lie to you. That's an insult. If you say someone is Dvaita, you're Dvaita Prabhu. You're two-faced. I can't accept you. So what happened is one time Advaita Acharya was called Dvaita, and that was an offense. And the reason he was called Dvaita is that Mother Sachi, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother, had another son, who was an older son, named Vishwarup. And Vishwarup used to go to see Advaita Acharya all the time to hear about Krishna consciousness. And so when people hear about Krishna consciousness, what happens? They lose a taste for things in this world. They just think, what am I going to get married? Or what am I going to do this? What am I going to do that? I just want to dance and chant. And of course, sometimes we have to cool people down and say, no. You have to be a normal person first. Like Lord Chaitanya said to Raghunath Das Goswami. And when it's appropriate, you can give everything up. So what happened is Vishwarup kept going to Advaita Acharya's house. And as he kept going to Advaita Acharya's house and hearing about Krishna, he was in ecstasy. So then when Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra, the mother and father of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wanted to plan out the marriage of their son Vishwarup, then what happened is that Vishwarup heard what they were doing, and he got very, very upset, because he didn't want to get married. He was very renounced, and he left in the middle of the night. And Mother Sachi, from that time forward, for at least some period of time, blamed Advaita Acharya for instilling in her son the spirit of renunciation. Now, that happens. I mean, I joined the movement. My mother was very upset. Like that prophet actually said that he was cursed by the parents of his disciples to not remain in one place because the disciples gave up everything. Just like Daksha cursed Narada Muni because he encouraged two groups of the sons of Daksha to take sannyas, the Sabalasras and Haryasvas. So Sachi Mata was very, very angry at Advaita Acharya, and she called him, Dvaita, you are two-faced. And so when it came time for Lord Chaitanya to give love of God to everybody in the Mahaprakash Leela in Srivas Thakur's house, he didn't give it to Sachi Mata. The devotees would say, why don't you give love of God to your mother? She's your mother. And they said, no. Lord Chaitanya said, no, she's offended. She's offended Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya became shocked at that point. And Sachi Mata was shocked that Advaita Acharya touched the feet of Sachi Mata because she's the mother of God. And Advaita Acharya, so Sachi Mata touched his feet. And so then Lord Chaitanya said, because you're forgiven, you can get love of God. So we learn from that lesson that even if you're the mother of God, that does not justify or clear you from any offenses against Vaishnavas. Offenses against Vaishnavas is so dangerous that even if you're the mother of God. Like sometimes people think, because I'm a Prabhupada disciple, Prabhupada will save me from offenses. No, the Guru doesn't save you from offenses. You got to save yourself, buddy. You commit offenses against the Vaishnava, and that's it. That's it. You got to beg for forgiveness, and hopefully the dust from the Vaishnava's feet will forgive you at that particular point. But it's, quite dangerous. So, anyway, so that's the story about Dvaita, that Advaita Acharya was called Dvaita instead of Advaita. Okay, so let's continue with some pastimes. So some people say that Advaita Acharya appeared in Srihata, and actually some people say he didn't appear there. So anyway, his father's name was Kubera Pandit, and some people say Shantipur, actually. So there's some controversy in the different biographers. So his father's name was Kubera Pandit, and his Kubera Pandit, and his father was considered an incarnation of Kuvera. Kuvera is the rich guy in charge of the demigod's treasury. And as we mentioned this morning, sometimes those who are related to Kuvera, like Manigriva and Alakubra, they become enamored by wealth. So wealth is very dangerous. His mother's name was Nava, and he came from a Virendra Brahmin family, appeared roughly in the year 1433, disappeared from this world in 1558, and he lived in this world for 125 years approximately. So before he appeared, his mother heard a divine voice predicting his advent. In a dream she saw Harihara, a combined incarnation of Vishnu or Krishna and Lord Shiva. And when he appeared, he had lotus eyes, and he was called Kamalaksha, lotus eyes. So as he grew up, he did get married, and he had two wives, one of whom was Yogamaya, was Sita, and his other wife was Shri, an expansion of Yogamaya. They were both sisters. And he had 6 sons. But the interesting thing is, 3 of the sons became devotees. So even if you're God, not all your sons become devotees. And 3 of them became impersonalists. So he rejected them. He actually considered them not to be his sons. That's the example he was showing. Even Krishna at one point had to kill one of his sons. That was Boma or Bomasura, because he became a rascal. So Advaita Acharya just rejected 3 of his sons, but 3 became great devotees, and Achyutananda was the greatest of his sons, the best, is described. And so there's some description that if Advaita Acharya offered obeisances to a deity, it wasn't properly worshipped, or the deity wasn't there, the deity would split into 1,000 pieces. So there's many stories. I think Jayapataka Maharaj tells some of those stories. And I'm not going to get into those stories right now because I'm not that familiar with them. So there's another story that Advaita Acharya, the Advaita Prakash, was able to retrieve lotus flowers for his spiritual master or teacher. Or his teacher, not spiritual master, because his spiritual master was Madhavendra Puri, by walking on the Ganges and walking on top of the Ganges, and he got the lotus flower. So after the passing away of Advaita Acharya's mother and father, he went to Gaya, which is the place to offer homage to one's forefathers, and there he met Madhavendra Puri for the first time. Then he went to Vrindavan, and in Vrindavan he actually discovered the deity that later became known as Madan Mohan. He was called Madan Gopal at that point. And he gave Madan Gopal to a family in Mathura, Chobe Brahmin family in Mathura. Later that deity was taken by Sanatana Goswami, Madan Mohan, became Madan Mohan at that time, and worshipped by Sanatana Goswami. There's a whole story about that, but class is not about Sanatana Goswami. So he, and his travels, he also found in a book called the Ananta Samhita, and in that Ananta Samhita he read descriptions of Lord Chaitanya's advent in Kali Yuga. And he, being a great Vaishnava, and of course the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not distinguish between devotees of different castes. In fact, he honored Haridas Thakur by giving him the Shraddha plate, which is normally supposed to be given to the topmost brahmanas. So he understood that Haridas Thakur was the topmost brahman because he was a Vaishnava automatically. Aho Bataswa Panchatawa Gariyan Yaji Vagre Vartate Namatubhyam Tapustapus Jehovah Sharshna Arya Brahmanuchar Nama Grananti Ete. If one actually takes up the chanting seriously and becomes a pure devotee, then one's automatically a Brahmin. It's understood he's undergone all the preliminary rituals, and that's Vaishnava's position. So, then he went back to Navadvip, and he met Madhavendra Puri and took initiation from him. And he opened a Sanskrit school in Navadvip and initiated Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata in the 4-syllable Gopal mantra. And I'm not going to teach you that mantra. But he was seeing the plight of the conditioned souls, as I mentioned before, and he was crying out and worshiping the Ganges. Krishna, you have to appear to save. This is the compassion of a devotee, and even compassion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he appeared as a devotee. And so this is the external reason, one of the external reasons for Lord Chaitanya's advent, which precipitated Lord Chaitanya coming, Advaita Acharya crying out for him. And so eventually Lord Chaitanya did appear, and Advaita Acharya, after Lord Chaitanya manifested his position as the greatest devotee of the Lord, Advaita Acharya understood who he was. Of course, Advaita Acharya, even before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, would circumambulate Sachimata, and he basically put sandalwood pulp on her womb, on the outside, in the stomach, like that, and worshipped. And she didn't understand what was happening, but Advaita Acharya knew that was his Supreme Personality of Godhead going to appear, even though Advaita Acharya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very interesting contrast there. And we tell the story about Vishwarup taking sannyas. And here's a story about Advaita Acharya's son, Achyutananda. One day, Advaita Acharya was asked by someone, who is Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master? And Advaita Acharya answered, Keshava Bharati. And Achyutananda, who is Advaita Acharya's little son, got so angry, I think he was about 5 years old, he chastised his father. He says, how can you say the Lord Chaitanya has a spiritual master? He's the original spiritual master. And when Advaita Acharya heard that, he was extremely happy with his son, because his son understood the tattvas, although there was some Leela information he needed to understand. But Advaita Acharya was very upset that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would respect him, because Advaita Acharya was quite older than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he began to teach a bogus philosophy known as the Yoga Vasishta to get Lord Chaitanya angry. And Lord Chaitanya got so angry that he came to Advaita Acharya's house with Lord Nityananda and started physically beating up Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya's wife, Sita, was so upset, she said, you're going to kill the old man. And Lord Chaitanya said, I don't care. He's teaching this bogus philosophy. Advaita Acharya started dancing in ecstasy, thinking, I finally achieved what I wanted to achieve. Lord Chaitanya has chastised me instead of offering me respects. It's really interesting. And then, after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, these are some stories, he came to Advaita Acharya's house being tricked by Lord Nityananda, because Lord Nityananda told him that the Ganges was the Jamuna. And so Lord Chaitanya jumped into the Jamuna, and actually he was, or the part of the Ganges where the Jamuna flowed, he jumped into the Ganges. And Advaita Acharya came to greet him with new clothes, and he said, why are you here? And then he realized he was in Shantipur. And in Shantipur, Advaita Acharya allowed Mother Sachi again to cook for Lord Chaitanya after he took sannyas. And when Lord Chaitanya took prasad at Advaita Acharya's house, Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda fought like anything. Like Lord Nityananda, being very humorous, he said when he was served some prasadam, he said, I was hoping to break my fast today, but this is not even a morsel. And Advaita Acharya says, you're a reject Paramahamsa, just eat what's there. And Lord Nityananda eventually got so upset, playful, that he threw the rice on the ground and a little bit hit Advaita Acharya's body, and Advaita Acharya started dancing in ecstasy. Now, I have been influenced by this avaduta. And so there are so many instances where Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda would engage in mock fighting, like this, very playful. So remember, Lord Chaitanya, Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda are both the same person. They're God, or he's God, to be more precise. So you have a person fighting with himself because of Leela or pastimes. And sometimes they would bathe in the near the Gundicha temple, the Virendra Sarovara. And then they would have water fights and splash each other in the face. And one particular water fight, Lord Nityananda splashed Advaita Acharya in the face, and he couldn't see, and he got so angry he started saying bad names to Lord Nityananda. This is very, 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 very interesting pastimes that occurred there. So this is the final thing, because we have to end at 5 my time. Actually, 5 my time, or 6 your time, depending on where you are, or in Australia and New Zealand. It's because there's many more pastimes about Advaita Acharya, which we don't have time to talk about. So Advaita Acharya was the one who gave the final message to Lord Chaitanya through Jagannatha Pandit. Jagannatha Pandit had been visiting Shantipur and Mayapur. So Advaita Acharya wanted to tell Lord Chaitanya, it's time to leave this world now. And so he gave them this message, which is in like in a sonnet or a poetic form. And I'm going to read it. Please inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is acting like a madman, that everyone here has become mad like him. Please inform him also that in the marketplace, rice is no longer in demand. Further tell him that those now mad in ecstatic love are no longer interested in the material world. Also tell Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one who has also become a madman in ecstatic love, Advaita Acharya, has spoken these words. And when Lord Chaitanya heard this, he said, this is from the Anjali, 1923, After hearing the equivocal sonnet by Advaita Acharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quietly smiled. That is his order. He then said, he then fell silent. Although he knew the secret, Swarup Damodar inquired from the Lord, what is the meaning of this sonnet? I could not understand it. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, Advaita Acharya is a great worshipper of the Lord and is very expert in the regulative principles enjoined in the Vedic literatures. Advaita Acharya invites the Lord to come and be worshipped, and to perform the worship he keeps the deity for some time. After the worship is completed, he sends the deity somewhere else. I do not know the meaning of this sonnet, nor do I know what is in Advaita Prabhu's mind. Advaita Acharya is a great mystic. No one can understand him. He is expert in writing sonnets that even I myself cannot understand. Advaita, so in other words, he was telling Lord Chaitanya it's time to leave this world and sending it in this sort of like disguised form. And Advaita and Lord Chaitanya eventually left this world by entering into the Tota Gopinath deity in Jagannath Puri. So, and Advaita Acharya disappeared because he was expressing a lot of pain as to how people were not properly respecting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all the Vaishnavas came, they had kirtan, and Advaita Acharya was crying out, where is my Gauranga? Where is my Gauranga? Here he is. And he entered the temple of Madan Gopal, then Shantipur. There's the temple of Madan Gopal in Shantipur. And in this way, he didn't come out of the deity room. He disappeared in the deity room. And that's how Advaita Acharya left this world. So today we should beg for the mercy of Advaita Acharya. He's the king of all the devotees. And if we get his mercy, then we can get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's very important. Of course, we first approached Lord Chaitanya through the spiritual master, Lord Nityananda, Balaram, Naimatma Bala Hinena Labwa. And then after doing that, we can get to Lord Chaitanya's mercy, and then we become free from material desires, come to the ecstatic platform, and then we get the mercy of approaching the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So sometimes people want to jump. But first we have to please our spiritual master and get the opening of the Adhikar to approach Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Nityananda, of course. So, on that happy note, we'll give you about 5 minutes for questions, and then I have to go. So, who has a question? You can write your question, you can speak your question, you can raise your hand, unmute yourself, or whatever you'd like to do. So, if no one has any questions... Okay, Rakesh, you have a question?
My question is, Maharani Bhakti Devi?
I can't hear you.
Yes. Okay.
I can hear, but your internet connection is really bad.
Yes, it is bad. Is Tulsi, how do I say? Is Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi?
Yes, Tulsi Devi is Bhakti Devi.
So when we chant that Tulsi Maharani gives bhakti to the Lord, which
Gives Bhakti to us, not to the Lord.
okay, Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi.
Yeah, she gives us Vishnu Bhakti. Vishnu is the Tattva, so that means Krishna Bhakti. First of all, yeah, that's a little controversial because some of the devotees have changed the mantra that Prabhupada gave us. Vrindayai Tulsi Devi Priyai Keshvashada Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi. They changed it to Krishna Bhakti. But Prabhupada gave us the mantra as Vishnu Bhakti. Because Vishnu is the category, Vishnu Tattva. Krishna is Vishnu Tattva. It's a category. He's God. You say God. Bhakti for God, love for God. That's what it's saying. So, but people have to change the mantras. They have very inventive minds, and they change the mantras that Prabhupada actually gave us. You can read in Prabhupada's letters and Prabhupada's instructions that he told us to chant Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Naha. Okay,
So, so she did
here's a
not
question.
give bhakti to Lord Vishnu. She gave Vishnu bhakti to everybody.
Yes, if you worship her, respect her. All right, so here's another question from Mukhya Gopika. We see in different Puranas, different scriptures, the conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati. So this conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati, or the eternal and Adi Parashakti, who is engaged in Krishna Katha? Shiva, Lord Shiva in this world is engaged in Krishna Katha, and also Sadashiva. And the Lord Shiva in this world is reciting many pastimes of the Lord to his consort, and that's it. That's in this world. And the Sadashiva is Vishnu Tattva. And the reason I know that is that I one time was questioning my dear god brother, Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu, who was expert in all the Vedic literatures, and I said, how can it say that Advaita Acarya is Sadashiva? And he explained, Sadashiva is Vishnu Tattva in the spiritual world. And the Shiva that we know here, because the word Shiva means auspicious. It's actually one of the Vishnu Sahasranama, names of Vishnu. Also, Brahma means the greatest. That's the name of Vishnu too. So it can also be used in other contexts. I know that sounds confusing, but that's the way things are. Okay, so what else? One other question, and then we have to go. Go. If no one has a question, then we can go. And so today, of course, is Advaita Acharya's appearance day. And what can I say? We ask for his mercy. He's non-different, Advaita, than the Supreme Personality. He is the Supreme Personality of God, not from Lord Chaitanya, non-different from Mahavishnu, non-different from Lord Nityananda, but different mood, a different aspect. Like Krishna in different situations, they're the same person. We don't have many gods. There are not many gods. We're not polytheistic. So, thank you very much, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. And tomorrow is another special day. It is Bijmashtami. We're going to talk about Bijma Dev tomorrow in the morning class and also in the evening. All glories to his divine